Today was another big day in the Florida House, from protecting our institutions from foreign theft to disrupting and redesigning Florida's workforce system. As you all recall, as of last year, the House Select Committee on Foreign Influence and Threat of Adversaries like China acknowledged that China is not only a real threat in the globe, but a real threat here in Florida as it relates to our research institutions and the theft of intellectual property. Today we took significant steps to address that problem in the state. We passed House Bill 7017, sponsored by Chair Aaron Grawl. This is a bill to combat foreign influence on higher education, state agencies, and local governments. You've seen the last couple of weeks, as this bill has moved, you've seen some of our federal partners that we've been working with, Senator Rubio, Congressman Stubbe, have followed suit and filed legislative measures in the Congress to address these similar issues. We also passed House Bill 1523, sponsored by Representative Beltran. His bill increases penalties on intellectual property theft that would benefit a foreign government or a foreign agent. Here in Florida, we're showing the nation how a state puts an end to foreign theft of academic research and intellectual property. I'm proud of our members for the overwhelming support of both parties that this received, both through the committee process and today on the House floor. Also today, we also fulfilled our promise to reform a broken workforce system. This is several years in the making. As you remember, a couple of years ago, the House kickstarted a House investigation regarding what had taken place in Tampa Bay and the workforce system. Mark Puente, who is a reporter at the Tampa Bay Times, started that reporting. We did our own investigation and concluded that there was just absolutely corrupt practices that were going on. There were career source boards who were getting national accolades and yet not actually finding people jobs, just taking credit for jobs that already existed. We went back this year and fundamentally took a look at our workforce system. And what we did, and what you'll find, is the most significant redesign of a workforce system moving in any legislative body anywhere in the nation. House Bills 1507 and 1505 were responses to those investigations and have the redesign. The work of Chairman Latvala, the Education Employment Committee, Representative Yarborough and Mello, if these bills become law, it will really put us in a position to not only deliver on the promise of helping people find meaningful work, it will make it easier for people to find jobs. It will make sure that we can reach our goal of trying to get as many able-bodied adults, 60% by 2030, from having something from a nationally recognized industry certification to a higher education degree. We want people who've lost their jobs, who are looking for a different line of work, to be able to find out where that work is in one place, what jobs are in demand, and what kind of training they need to get those jobs. We know that people just want to provide for themselves and their families, and these bills help create that pathway to prosperity. What we are doing is not being done anywhere else, as I mentioned before, and the hope is that this redesign, we've been working with our Senate partners, becomes law, it will be a model for the nation in how to do workforce. The bill also includes an ask of the federal government to create a waiver so that we can tailor our workforce system even more. It's a special bill. We're proud of the members, and it really is. I meant what I said today on the floor. This is a consensus product from all the members, and all the members are really architects, which is why when they walked in today, we had the blueprint that's behind me laying on their desk. With that, I'll take your questions. No, the two things have absolutely nothing to do with one another. As I said in the opening day speech in November, I addressed policing up front, and in that speech, you'll recall I gave a defense of the police and of policing. I also said that my mind and my door would be open to good ideas. We had a conversation over the last several months about what those good ideas might be. The product that you see that rolled out today, the PCB that's going to come out of Judiciary, is that consensus product. We worked with members in the Democratic caucus, particularly the Black caucus, on that consensus product and what would improve policing. Many of the things that are in there are things I have said publicly that I support, including the data transparency elements. And I think you'll see on Thursday, not only will you have support from Republicans and Democrats, you will see organizations like the Florida Sheriff's Association, the Florida Police Chiefs, the Police Benevolence Association, the Fraternal Order of Police will also come out in significant support of the bill.
On the big tech bills, President Simpson seemed to acknowledge that it has some constitutional issues and might need some major surgery, using my words, not his, before it crosses the finish line. What are your discussions and thoughts on that? And how can you guys change it to make sure it passes constitutional muster? Like free speech for businesses,
Yeah, it's a little hard to hear you, but I think what you're asking is the constitutionality or legal challenges as it relates to the big tech bill, and how does that look? Look, we obviously rolled out a product that we believed, could withstand those challenges, and that we would have an argument that they would withstand those challenges. There is absolutely no question that anytime we're touching these issues, we are having to drive the boat around the icebergs. That is Section 230, and that is federal law. That is a difficult thing to do. The product that you've seen moving in the House is our effort to do that in a way that ensures that the big tech companies are on notice that they can't change the rules midstream. People have to know what the rules are. They have to be able to know if you are censoring them or if you're deplatforming them. That was our path to do that, and we believe that it will comply with Section 230. I'm not sure we have a direct companion to that bill. That's a conversation we've been having from the very, very start of session. I think that where we share commonality about workforce, about workforce education is very similar. I think the Senate had taken a very different path than we had taken, but the workforce product that you see, the scholarships that you see that we have in higher education, it was the House's ideas about how do we drive students into these high demand jobs, your STEM fields, the things that they're going to walk out of the university and be able to call someone and get a job. I think that's my desire, and I think that's President Simpson's desire.
The debate around that bill has now become about tying funding for the program and scholarship amounts to what's appropriated in the state budget. Would you support something like that?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a misnomer. I know that's how it's being pictured. That's not in our bills, but what I would say to you is that's always the case, right? That when we do the state budget, everything is contingent upon the state budget. So I understand that there's grave concern about that language, but the reality is that everything that we appropriate in the GAA is subject to legislative appropriation. This is no different. I think the bigger issue here is, I think the Senate set out on a path to figure out how do we drive people into high demand jobs. The President has said that. I have said that. You have seen the House's ideas on how we do that. We'll continue that conversation, but at the end of the day, it is my desire, and I think the House members' desire, to provide people who want to have a job when they graduate from the university, or if they're not going to the university, a nationally recognized industry certification, a rapid credential that's going to allow them to get a job.
Another sort of big tech data privacy bill that was up today in committee. There was a slew of big business lobbies that were opposed to the bill still, even after. Any chance that bill changes some more before it
Are we talking about big tech or data privacy?
data privacy?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. Look, there's obviously folks who don't want to have regulations around people's data. We've made it very clear that we believe when people get online and they go visit a website or they make a purchase or they go to a store, we acknowledge that these businesses are tracking everything that they do. And I think when people are using that for internal use, that's one thing. You get a rewards program, you show up at the Dunkin' Donuts and, hey, guess what? You've been here 3 times this month, you get a free donut. That's great. The problem is when a company comes and sells that to another entity so that they can target ads at you, so that they can mine your data, use that against you, those kinds of things. That is our problem. That is still our problem. So while we're sensitive to the concerns, and I think that Representative Fiona McFarland, who's carrying that bill, is doing a fantastic job of getting the input and making the reasonable changes to the bill that get to our intent, which is to catch the kind of conduct that all of us would find offensive and prevent companies from doing that. And if they don't do it or they violate those rules, that there's a consequence to it.
Are you not bothered by the massive costs they're talking about on your businesses as mentioned?
The massive what?
Costs that they say that they'll incur as we're trying to rebalance?
Yeah, look, remember, a lot of these businesses do this already, right? So, you guys surf the internet long enough while you're sitting here and you're going to see, I don't know if we can lower that volume over there. You're going to see a button that says, click here if you're a California resident. Like, you only deserve data privacy if you're a California resident, right? That's for our folks here in Florida, they deserve data privacy as well. I think that the infrastructure, Gray, already exists for this to be able to happen. And look, if you're sophisticated enough of an actor to take and mine someone's data, so much so that it becomes a profit center that you can sell to other entities, surely you are sophisticated enough to be able to allow that person to opt out, or if they ask you to delete their information, if you have it, that you're able to go in and delete it. If you can sell it, you can figure out how to delete it.
Speaker, on 1475, there's been some suggestion that there's some wheeling and dealing going on between the Senate and the House
Which bill is this? Oh, I understand. Okay. So you guys know the numbers. I know the content. So, look, we haven't had conversations about how those bills match up yet. You heard the debate on the House floor today. I've been very public that I believe that, our bill is common sense, allows, girls to play girls' sports, protects the competitiveness of girls' sports. So, we'll have to figure the rest out in the legislative process. But I support the bill we passed off the floor today.
What's the status of the budget at this point? Are you talking to the Senate President? Are there sticking points? What are the big issues?
We're always talking. I mean, at this stage of the game, we're trying to start budget negotiations. The way we do that is to get allocations, and we don't have them yet. So, we're obviously working towards that. We speak to the Senate regularly, and, we're going to try to get allocations so that we can get everyone in budget conference as soon as possible.
As far as timeline, Senate President Ron Simpson said that he's looking at maybe over $100 million going towards that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we're going to work out, what we want to spend in the budget process, but I think what we all agree on is that, the site's untenable. I was encouraged by the governor's comments when he visited the site about having to just, clean up the site in its entirety. I think obviously in the short-term future, we need to stop the water that's going into Tampa Bay. That's a problem. I've said this before, but that's very personal to me. That's where I'm from. So that's a grave concern for our state. I also think, and I said this earlier today to someone else, from kind of a global perspective, we need to do a better job as a state at kind of looking at what our risk portfolio is, right? There's Piney Point today, but there's another Piney Point around the bend somewhere. And I think that we need to get a handle on what those risks are. We had some testimony in a committee in the Pandemic and Public Emergencies Committee a few weeks ago, from a group that does this, that comes in and builds risk portfolios for large-scale organizations. I'm interested in having a risk portfolio for the state of Florida. And I think that would allow us as a state, based on real data, to come in and say, all right, these things are all concerns, but here's the biggest concern that we need to deal with the quickest.
Mr. Speaker, what about a payment passport? I know the governor wants one, the Senate President has seen certain support behind one.
I think he doesn't want a passport, right? Yeah.
He wants to see legislation to ban them.
Yeah, so, listen, I oppose the vaccine passports. Christine, you were the first person ever to ask me about vaccine passports, and I said then that I opposed them. I still do. I think that this is a time where, you need to encourage the people who want to get a vaccine to go and get one. You need to make it as accessible as possible. I think the governor has done a good job of making it accessible. This idea, and I think someone had said that the Biden administration had come out and said that they're not interested in doing them. I'm not sure if that's true or not. But I don't think that is the right way to encourage people to do something. I think what you've seen is that when left to their own devices, people will try to do what's best for them and best for their families. And I think that that's what we should continue to focus on. I don't think vaccine passports, I think they set us back in a really significant way.
But will you pass a bill to codify?
I would be,
whether there's emergency-
I'd be fine with banning vaccine passports, yes.
A lot of the measures making their way through, or a couple at least, making their way through the legislature have drawn national criticism from corporations in particular. The NCAA potentially might be critical of 1475.
Yeah.
The voting rights stuff might be a thorny issue for corporations. The governor talked at length about how he's not interested in what corporations have to say on this. What's your response to corporate criticism of some of the measures being passed in the White House?
Yeah, I'd say we couldn't care less. I mean, we really couldn't. I think that this is now a movement that you're seeing in corporate America that, whether it's the NCAA today or it might be someone tomorrow, that we're going to use our corporate largesse to bully the state. Our message, I think that's the governor's message, is certainly my message. The state of Florida is not going to be bullied by any corporate actor. So they can send out as many press releases or tweets as they like. It will not impact what we do in the way of policy in the state of Florida. None of those CEOs of those businesses or the folks who run their Twitter stood for election. But the 120 members in that chamber did. They represent 22 million Floridians. It's their opinions that I worry about.
The House and Senate have very different approaches on property insurance. Do you intend to, they're pretty strong on attorney fees and roofing. And you guys are
What was the last part? Roofing. Yeah, I actually think that they're really not that far apart. So what they do is they tackle it in different ways. So on roofs they had actual cash value. If you look at ours, right, one of the things that's a commonality in these roof claims that you're seeing across the state is that people have had people knock on their door and say, how would you like a new roof? You had a hailstorm 6 months ago. I could get you a new roof from your insurance company. If you go around town and ask people if they've had that, chances are they've had someone knock on their door and say that. The House bill, the reason I say all that, includes some significant language around solicitation, essentially bans that practice from happening altogether. I don't think that that's in the Senate bill. I think there's some good components in the Senate bill. We approach those issues a little bit differently. I think, for one, that the major cost driver here is the fact that you have actors who are knocking on doors and essentially, perpetuating a fraudulent system where they say, hey, you didn't know you have a problem, but I'm telling you have a problem and I'll get you something free. And that's a real problem. And the people who are suffering the most as a result of that conduct are the actual individual homeowners who are now seeing their rates go up. So, to answer your question, I think that the House and Senate are committed to, to trying to get a product that meaningfully curtails, this kind of frivolous litigation and fraud as a way to trying to get ahead of this problem of seeing our homeowners insurance rates go up as a result of frivolous litigation.
Well, I mean, is attorney fees the big issue you have?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that's certainly one of the big issues. I candidly think, that's an issue we've been talking about. But one of the other big issues that is outstanding that we do a little bit differently is all the stuff that happens at the beginning. So you have your how much time does the insurance company have to adjudicate your claim? Is there a pre-suit notice period? We've got some very strong language in the House bill that addresses those issues to make sure that the insurance company has enough time to actually engage with their insured and hopefully, bring about a satisfactory outcome without, the courts and everybody else having to get involved.
One thing on the Herald report the other day about the governor having negotiations with the tribe on a potential deal. Regardless of what it is, do you think the legislature would have to approve anything that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, if there's a negotiation of a compact,
Is there enough time in session to?
I think we're pretty late at this point. All right. Go ahead.
Do you have an estimate or a date for when you would like to get the allocation?
As soon as possible.
Are you telling members to stay this weekend?
What's that? We will give members direction the second that we have it. So we're working on it, and we're going to try to get allocations as soon as we can. Thank you all. Appreciate it.